Welcome to Adam Does Movies Live. I can never really get that transition down correctly. I blame StreamYard. I will always blame anyone but myself. Hope you guys are having a good day, good afternoon. This is way earlier than I ever go, but my guest, I'll bend over backwards. I will trek across land and sea and time itself to make him happy. And he said, let's go 4:30. I said, absolutely, 4:30 it is. I am here with my buddy, Cody Leach. Cody, how you doing, sir?
Damn right, you bend over when I say to. I'm doing well, man. I'm doing good. How are you?
Well, I'm happy to know you survived the Debbie Downer hurricane that we have going through.
Yeah, man, it was weird. Like, we've had hurricanes plenty of times. This is something you deal with when you live in the Southeast, but usually it's like the wind. They're like, man, it's going to get crazy wind. This time it's like, yeah, it's not going to be windy, but you're going to get pounded with rain for 3 days. So have fun. And like I'm looking in my front yard and my backyard, and I'm just seeing the water level like starting to slowly creep towards the house. And I'm like, what do you even do if it hits the door? Like, I'm not prepared for this. Luckily it didn't happen. We got just enough of a break where it never really got that close, but all of our surrounding cities, FUBAR.
Yeah, I don't worry until Christian Slater goes by on a jet ski. And then I
wait, Morgan, come back.
We just want the money. It's an underrated gem, by the way. Hard Rain. If you haven't seen Hard Rain, it's a classic.
Yes.
From what was that, like mid 90s, late 90s? Yeah.
96, okay. 97. Like I remember when I used to live in Ohio, I was right on the Michigan line, and there was this grocery store called Food Town that you will never hear of unless you live in that area, but they used to always have these cardboard cutouts of the new release. I remember seeing Wedding Singer and a bunch of others, and so I distinctly remember seeing Hard Rain, and it's like, you know, the gun pose and this and that with like, you're like, it doesn't look like it's raining on them, but whatever.
It's such a stupid title too, Hard Rain. You know, that went through like 18 different iterations before they landed on that one. Like, all right, it's Die Hard in the water, so we got to put die in the title.
Yeah. Same movie in 2020 would be called Make It Rain because of the money.
Exactly. Well, we're gathered here today, I guess maybe in respect, possibly in memoriam or how do you say that? In memoriam?
In memoriam.
In memoriam. Thank you. M. Night Shyamalan, Ding Dong, M. Night, however you want to say his last name for fun. Some people, Cody, I like to say his name like that, kind of like how I say John Favresaurus Rex or Kevin Feige. I say his name different every time, but apparently it's racist. I didn't know that. I was called racist several times for.
You can't win if you make a joke out of it because you're never going to pronounce it right. Then the pronunciation police will get onto you. So like I usually. My brain switches back and forth between saying Shyamalan and Shyamalan. And whenever I say Shyamalan, I always get at least one person. They're like, can't pronounce his name correctly. Why do I even give a fuck what you're having to say? And I'm like, I don't know. You clicked and you commented. So you explain that to me, sir. This
entire 1 hour video is completely useless now.
Yeah. I odd when I should have ad.
Well, I'm from Minnesota originally, so everything is pronounced incorrectly to begin with. You just, it is what it is. Dragon, bag. It's all over.
Yeah.
M. Night. So Cody and I both put out 3 M. Night videos this last week alone. We were very, very happy with his recent movie Trap. I put out a review, a spoiler video, and a top 10 dumbest things from Trap. Cody did somewhat the same. Review, spoiler, and then he ranked all of the M. Night movies. I haven't watched Cody's like big video yet, so I don't know actually your thoughts, Cody, on any of his films outside of Trap. So I'm excited to kind of go through them a little bit and really get to determine if M. Night has it still, if he ever had it, if he'll ever get it, or if he should just stop and let his sisters or let his daughters direct and dance and sing for the rest
Are
of
you
time.
actually convinced his daughter directed Watchers?
You know, it looked a lot like M. Night's movie. I'll say that much.
Well, not only that, but the strengths of the movie and the weaknesses were eerily similar. To where, like, I don't want to doubt the girl's ability, but at the same time, I'm like, are you sure you were just a producer? Because, damn, this seems very similar.
It had shades of, what is it, Patty Jenkins in Wonder Woman compared to Wonder Woman 84, where you had all the Snyder fans going, Zack Snyder really directed Wonder Woman. Patty was kind of like the co-director, and then she took over in 84. You can kind of see it that way too. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if she kind of let Dad take the reins and she just was closely, following along so that she could eventually direct her own. Who knows? It's very conspiratorial, but at the end of the day, M. Night's kids are doing just fine.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's go through. I'm going to bring this up here. I got Letterboxd. I didn't know. You probably knew this since you just ranked him. Did you do these two films I've never heard of in my life? Praying
with Anger, I did not. I think that's just like a student film. I don't even know if it's feature length. I've never seen that, and I didn't think it was worth even bringing up. I did include Wide Awake, though. That's kind of like his first studio movie, but not. I don't call it, or I call it. It's not a M. Night proper movie because everybody, for understandable reasons, kind of understands Sixth Sense as his real like first movie.
Yeah, this kind of has a Disney look to it. It reminds me of Angels in the Outfield with that poster.
It is such a weird movie. Like it is just picture 90s family dramedy, and you know exactly what this movie is going for, but it's telling the story that does not appeal to children at all. It's about this kid where when the movie starts, his grandfather has passed away and he's going to this Catholic school for boys, and he has this crisis of faith because his grandfather died. So the whole movie, he's trying to find God. And he's being concerned about his grandfather's eternal place in the world. So it's like these really heavy themes pushed through like the Disney 90s sieve. And it's so weird.
Let me enhance. I want to see if she's actually holding this baseball glove in her hand. If she's really wearing this thing. That baseball does not look like any baseball I've ever seen in my life.
Softball.
I don't know what's going on with the laces or lack thereof. Okay, we have Dennis Leary in this and Rosie O'Donnell. I know those two names, but I don't know anything about this film.
I remember seeing advertisements for it back in the day on certain VHS tapes, but never watched it. So I watched it for the first time when Old came out because that was the first time I ranked all of his movies, and it's just very weird. It's kind of unfair to put it in a ranking with his other movies because it's just such a sore thumb, and so you're. Quality wise, there's a number of movies that I have ranked above it that are probably worse movies, but I would watch them again before I watch that one.
Yeah, I don't have any desire to see this, and you're not making it sound like I should, so I'm not going to. Why can't I? Here, I want to do this. Okay.
There you go.
Let's go in order. We got The Sixth Sense. I think everybody's seen this movie at least once, and probably don't need to see it ever again. One time is kind of the sweet spot because upon rewatch, not that great of a film, but I will always hold it in high esteem because it was so incredibly revolutionizing for me, seeing that in the theater with my family and being completely blown away by the insane twist that made M. Night the man he is today. And maybe for better or worse, now he's kind of beholden to the twist in every single movie. Even if he doesn't want to do one, I don't think, Knock at the Cabin? That really didn't have a twist.
Needed one.
It needed one. I guess the twist was there wasn't one. But yeah, everybody's going into these now expecting to be just blown away every time. And I feel like M. Night's kind of shot himself in the foot, whether it was his fault or just marketing, by being the guy that blows your mind with twists.
He absolutely has, because it's impossible not to walk into his movies without your brain subconsciously trying to figure out the twist. Like we see these advertisements for his movies months before we watch them. So like you see Trap and it's like serial killer stuck in this concert while the cops are closing in on him. So you're like, that sounds interesting. And at the back of your head, you're going, okay, he's not going to be the killer, or he's there to find the killer too. And it's like a Dexter thing, or the daughter's actually the killer. Like that's all your mind is doing. And so even if you try not to, you can't walk into it without your brain going, what the fuck is the twist, M. Night? You ain't getting me this time. And so inevitably you set yourself up for disappointment in a number of ways. Either you expect the twist, there isn't one, and you're disappointed because the movie just kind of ends, or you figure out the twist and you're disappointed because there's no shock value, or in the case of Trap, you come up with much better ideas in your head, and then you see what he came up with and you're like, well, fuck, mine were better than that. But in regards,
I think the other problem is his movies just aren't that strong on their own to just kind of enjoy as they're pulling out. You know, you almost have to kind of think, okay, there's a reason why people talk weird in this movie, or these camera shots linger far too long on unnecessary things. There's a reason it's going to go back to it. And oftentimes it doesn't.
In regard to The Sixth Sense, though, I still very much think the movie is damn good, even on rewatch. I've rewatched it a number of times, but I will say the twist doesn't hold up as much as some others, because the main issue that I always have with the twist, now that you know it, is why doesn't Haley Joel Osment? Are we spoiling things, by the way?
Oh yeah, we will be doing spoilers on every one of these, including Trap. Yeah, we're okay.
Because I still get people that give me shit if I talk about The Sixth Sense, and I'm like, is there besides Empire Strikes Back? I don't know if there's a movie where the twist is more widely known in pop culture. Nonetheless,
let me make a note on this rotating banner that says there are spoilers on the stream. There we go.
But the main question that I always end the movie on, even though I love the movie, even on rewatch, is I never quite understand why Haley Joel Osment doesn't react to Bruce Willis the same way he reacts to all the other ghosts.
Yeah.
The only explanation I can kind of think of is that his wound is hidden by his jacket, but him breathing and the cold comes out, like all these signs that a ghost is near doesn't happen when Bruce Willis is there. And so I've always kind of been like, I don't know if that fits. Like, it's a brilliant twist. I love it. But that's the one part of it where I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, we just watched this not that long ago with my daughter. I thought she would freaking love this film, and she just found it kind of boring, and she really could not get over how weird the interactions with characters were. And so it's just funny that even, you know, a 15-year-old girl is picking up on the bizarre way that people talk to each other and interact in his films. And that hasn't gotten better over time. It's not like it's a lessons learned sort of a thing. M. Night continues to still have these just weird interactions with humans. It's kind of a trademark of his, and it's not a good one.
Toni Collette's damn good in that movie too. Not often people bring her up, but she's really good.
Toni Collette's always good. I don't think there's a weak performance from her. Okay, this one, you know, let me bring it up. Sorry, it's not being shared for some reason. Unbreakable. I have it at 3.5 on Letterboxd, although I will fully admit my star ratings are bullshit on Letterboxd. You know, it's always a feel thing. This is why I don't do scores on my channel. I've never given a ranking or a whatever.
They're a pain in the ass.
They are, and people always use them as ammo against you. So it's like whatever. A Despicable Me 2 getting a 4 stars, you know, compared to like Saw 6 or something. They're not really in the same boat, so it's just silly when it gets put together in that way.
Yeah, I try to explain that to people too. Like I do like a recommendation rating as well as a numeric rating to kind of please everybody and displease everybody in equal amounts. But I kind of take that attitude too. Like if by the end of my review you should get an idea what I think of it. The number shouldn't matter.
Right.
But I do try to explain to people, like in the way that you said, where they use it against you, where I'm like, okay, if I give this movie that's a horror thriller a 3.5, but I give something like Deadpool and Wolverine a 4.5, like they're two different objectives. The experience this movie was trying to give me, I had a 3.5 star experience. This one had a 4.5. It doesn't mean this one's like such a better movie than something that's a lot more artistic, if you will.
Well, and everything's, I want to say graded on a curve, but it kind of is. If I go into an indie film, I'm not expecting big budget effects and this
Yes.
amazing, experience. I'm expecting an indie movie that's charming in its own right, and you can see where it was going. So yeah, I'm gonna talk about the film from that aspect. So a star rating or whatever just kind of seems pointless.
Hmm.
All right, let's get
But
to
3.5 stars on Unbreakable. So what's your kind of your thoughts on the movie that keeps it from the 5 stars that I would give it?
yeah. So for me, the frustration, I guess, with this film is it feels like it really becomes something amazing right when it ends.
Hmm.
It's an origin story for the hero. Fine, but like, man, I loved that shit. I loved him lifting the weights in the basement, adding the paint buckets and all that stuff. But it felt like outside of a montage and really finally realizing who he is, the movie just doesn't go anywhere with it. And that final act of just pure frustration as he's drowning on the trampoline in the little pool of water was
Hmm.
just, oh my God, it was so hard to watch. I love Glass. The character, the movie's ass. That's one of the worst movies ever. But the character is great. I liked all that, and I thought the twist worked really well. In fact, I think the twist in Unbreakable is probably his best twist.
I would agree.
It's just so well executed, where he does the big aha reveal. I do think I should rewatch this one. I might like it more because just talking through it with you right now, I'm saying only positives really, outside of the frustration that it just doesn't really go anywhere more exciting at the end of the day. And then when it does finally go somewhere, it's that terrible Glass movie, and then I'm sad all over again. So
The only negative I have with the movie is that it ends with the text of what the ending of the movie is. Like it just pauses on Bruce Willis and it's like, officers found evidence of such and such crimes and
mm,
Elijah was carried away to prison forever. And it's like, why didn't you just show that? Like that's such a weird hard cut on and then put on text. But I guess that's a comic book story kind of thing. But I
right.
love this movie. I remember when it came out, it just one of those movies that's so ahead of its time because it comes out right when the comic book movie craze really just started. I mean,
Hmm.
X-Men came out the same year, Blade a year prior. And so this is a movie that took a long time for people to really appreciate because the thing that it was subverting wasn't really in the pop culture consciousness yet. So everybody just didn't know how to categorize it. Like, what is this? I don't understand. But I love Bruce Willis and especially Samuel Jackson in this. I think it's such a really interesting take on like him basically trying to prove that comic books are real by murdering everybody that he has to prove it, to find the one.
Right.
And Bruce Willis being the way that they really kind of take what everybody's reaction to that would be, and slowly throughout the movie, he starts to put things together like, wait a minute, I never have been sick, have I? How much strength can I actually have? Oh, every single weight I have in this house, I've lifted it. I have nothing else to put on this bar. That's peculiar. And
Yeah.
the way that it goes through all of that up to that handshake. And yeah, I do think this is his best twist because I think that it survives the second watch, which is the only thing that kills some of his twists, where it's like, oh, that initial shock, but then you watch the movie knowing what's going to happen, and you're like, I don't know if that 100% fits. This one does.
Right. Yeah, it's a solid movie. I really, again, I don't give movies 5 stars hardly ever because I
Neither
think
do I.
that's, yeah. So a 3.5 is actually a pretty generous score for me, and I think it is one of his better films. I
Three
just
and a
don't like
half
a
is
lot of.
Adam's 5.
That's a 5 for a lot of the common peasants out there. Yeah, you might be surprised by this one. Signs. I enjoy this movie quite a bit. Oh, I should also say another reason I wanted you on here, Cody, and for people that don't know, Cody and I think, are almost 1-to-1 when it comes to comedy films. I don't think we disagree on a single one, at least from the posts and things I've seen from you. I'm like,
uh,
yes, he likes Uncle Buck. He knows this, and it's always right on the money. Horror movies, I feel like we have a disconnect, so there is a bit of a back and forth we can have in a discussion. Did you
mhm,
like Long Legs? I don't know. I can't remember.
I did.
Okay, so I hated Long Legs. You like Barbarian? I hated Barbarian. Yeah, it's the elevated horror. A lot of times doesn't hit me the same as I think it hits you. And it's fun to have those conversations.
It's one of those relationships where we understand each other's taste. So I see Adam's reaction and he's like, this movie's dog shit. I'm like, this movie's going to be awesome. I go and check it out.
A few more months are going to go by and I'm going to be going to movies like Long Legs. And I'm going to go, oh, fucking Cody's going to just eat this up. He's going to love this movie. Signs, though, I eat this movie up, and it maybe has the dumbest twist out of all of the movies, because the aliens' big weakness is essentially Earth's the Earth itself. What is the Earth made of? Like 85% water, something ridiculous. And the aliens come to the planet where it's kryptonite. And you could make
have a defense for that ending.
Well, I have a defense too, but it's probably not the same one you do. But you could make the excuse that they were out of gas and they just went to the nearest planet or something. But we've established that there's crop circles early on in this film, so they've clearly been scouting the location for some reason. My excuse is it doesn't fucking matter, because the aliens are not even the premise of this movie. This movie is about a man who's lost his faith, he's lost his wife, he's lost himself. And so throughout the course of this film, he's going to get that back through the relationship he had with his wife, through her dying last words of wisdom, and through her kids, and through the power of this family working together. And that's a captivating story. I'm not even a man of faith myself, but I appreciate a well-written character, and it definitely has one. As for the alien thing, that's just icing on the cake. That's like the facade to kind of get the story where it needs to go. And also, it has one of the creepiest ass alien reveals ever. We all know the scene where it's the found footage camera at the birthday and that freaking green
children, vamonos.
Oh my, it's so good. And that green alien walks by. It's like, ah!
Yeah,
because they don't do the jump scare, do they? Isn't it just kind of there?
It's just there. You get a music cue, like a sound that kind of jolts you. But yes, it's not a fake out. It's not a typical lazy crap.
Yeah, there's no cat jumping out of a cupboard. It's just straight up kind of creepy footage. What are your thoughts, Cody?
I love Signs. Yeah. Absolutely love Signs. I saw this in theaters 3 times. It's the only movie I've ever willingly saw 3 times. I find it I have a huge disconnect with some of our peers that like go to see a movie like 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 times in theaters. Like, I can't wrap my mind around that. I don't know if I've ever loved a movie that much. I see it twice and I'm like, I'm good for a while. Doesn't matter how great it is. So the fact that I saw it 3 times willingly should say a lot. But I love the characters here. To me, this is the one time where M. Night's really quirky sense of humor really worked, because of the tone of the movie and the story he's working with. Like, some of the shit that comes out of these people's mouth is so, like, no pun intended, alien, but it kind of works. Like the scene where he's trying to get his sister to give him the tape. He's like, the history of the world is on the TV right now. Everything that we've written in science books is about to change for your children, Bo. You know, like that, nobody talks like that, especially a fucking 8-year-old kid, but it works.
Right. It does work. And I think it helps that this is a family that's mourning, and they are a little bit kind of
off,
cold. Yeah, they're off. They're cold with each other. They're out on the farm. We all know farmers are weird. You know, they're just weird people.
And I think the reason it works is because Joaquin Phoenix holds it all together by being the character that is kind of grounded. Yes. Where he's the one you identify with. Like when they run around the house and you got Abel, I'm insane with anger, and he goes, we're gonna beat your ass, bitch. Like, I die every time I get to that scene. But yes, I think the movie's funny. I think it's really tense. I think there's some great scares. I mean, the one you mentioned, the hand coming out from underneath the pantry,
under the pantry,
the hand next to the kid when they're in the cellar. There's so many great scares.
That great reflection shot off the TV, and then they kind of ruin it by showing the creature. But the shot off the TV is great.
It's one of his better directed movies for sure. Like his shot choice and everything is really on point with this one.
That early scene when he's up on the rooftop and you just kind of see the silhouettes, like, oh damn, this is kind of intense.
Right off the bat. I mean, that's the first scene of the movie. I love how emotional the story is, where slowly throughout it, like the exploration of faith through Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson's acting is incredible in this, as it always is. To me, it's a brilliant movie. And the one thing that always kind of gets hailed against it is the twist. But for me, it's very easily explained within the movie. So you have a segment where the kid is researching aliens with that book, and he's talking to Mel Gibson, and he says, like, he's asking, like, what's going to happen? He goes, well, the scientists have determined it's one of two things. Either one, they're peaceful explorers that are just kind of going throughout the galaxy trying to learn as much as they can, Star Trek style.
Sure.
Or they're hostile. They have used all of the resources on their planet. They're desperate. They're on the brink of extinction, and they have to harvest ours out of desperation and hostility. And it's very clear by the third act of the film, it's not number one. It's not the first scenario. So whether or not they are weakened by water, they have no other choice. They're like, we got to try. We got to try to take these people out and take the resources of this planet. Maybe we're going to get fucked up, but we got no other choice. And then what happens? They get fucked up and they lose.
Fair. I like it. I like the headcanon. I'm good with it. And again, in my opinion, it really doesn't matter that much because I think the movie's strengths are there.
The faith thing of it is certainly, it's meant to be the more prevalent piece of it. God giving everybody what they need to do to survive the night. Right. That's the main thing. But yes, even the underlying twist, I think, is very easily explained.
And you want to know the greatest twist of all, Cody? Since this conversation, this has moved up to a 5-star from M. Night Shyamalan. This is 5-star from me. All right. We got, there's a couple movies I haven't actually seen from him, and this is one of them because I actually predicted the twist from watching the trailer. And I asked my friends who saw the movie before I did, hey, is this really what's going on? Are they just in a community and the city's like right behind the trees? Like, yeah. I'm like, okay, I don't need to see this movie anymore. Mm-hmm. Is it any good? Is it worth watching? It looked kind of lame, to be honest with you.
I've never been that crazy about it, but it's right kind of somewhere in the middle of my ranking. That says more about how bad some of the other movies are than it does how good this one is. But this was the first time I remember like one of his movies just missing for almost everybody. The hype was huge. I remember going to the theaters and seeing that exact red line, like with the stickers on the windows and big posters everywhere. Because I mean, at this point, the dude was like 3 for 3.
He's huge.
And so, the movie, it's interesting. They've got some things in here that are when the first half of the film is really exploring the fake out, really, where it's like we're living in old times and there's these monsters that we have to appease and they come into the village when we want. And as long as we obey the rules, we're good. Like that side of the movie is actually kind of interesting and intriguing and tense. And then there's this protagonist switch about halfway through the film. You're following Joaquin Phoenix the whole movie, and then he gets injured and ends up bedridden, and then it swaps over to Bryce Dallas Howard, who is his blind girlfriend. And now she has to go in the second half of the film and break the rules, go off into the wilderness to try to find medicine for him, try to find another town. And then eventually you get the reveals because she's blind. She's the one that they send. So when she sees cars and shit like that, she doesn't know what the fuck any of it is. Jesus. And it really is one of the lamest twists because you're just like, dude, like exactly what you said. Like that's the side that betrays you when you get used to 3 for 3 films that are hinged on this big twist. And you see this, you're like, well, the only shock is that this isn't actually old times and it's modern times. And then everybody either said this twist sucks or I saw it coming and it sucks.
Yeah. They kind of did that recently with the not Olivia Munn. What's the movie where it was inside of like a virtual world? It was pretty lame. Oh my God.
Don't Worry, Darling.
Yeah, Don't Worry, Darling. They kind of the same concept as The Village, except
very
for
similar.
VR instead. And you figured it pretty early on, or at least I did. Like, this is not real. This is either it's outside of mainstream world or it's in a virtual world.
Yeah.
Okay, well, The Village, I don't care to watch that. I did unfortunately watch Lady in the Water. I found this movie to be just incredibly forgettable. In fact, right after seeing it, I forgot pretty much everything that took place. It's at a hotel. There's some mystical thing going in the pool, which is an M. Night. I don't know what M. Night's deal is with water, but he's all in. Weakness and Signs. It's Lady of the Water. He did Last Airbender with the water
Weakness
bending.
And Unbreakable.
And Unbreakable is the weakness. Yeah, he's really into it.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, he didn't use any water in Trap. Like when the girl went into the bathroom, she could have just thrown that fucking phone into the toilet, and then the guy couldn't have, but whatever. We'll get there. There's a lot of things that could have been different in Trap.
Yeah.
I'm going to read the synopsis because I forgot most of this movie. Apartment building superintendent Cleveland Heap rescues what he thinks is a young woman from the pool he maintains when he discovers that she is actually a character from a bedtime story who is trying to make the journey back to her home. He works with his tenants to protect his new friend from the creatures that are determined to keep her in our world. That's right. There's creatures that come out from the woods at night and not much else.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this one at all. On one hand, I mean, I'm not its target audience, even if it was good, because I'm not really into fantasy so much. As much as I love horror and sci-fi, fantasy's never really been my thing. So mermaids, orcs, elves, fairies, that kind of thing.
Merman.
She's like a sea fairy or something.
Yeah.
So right away, not really my thing. I think Paul Giamatti's good in it, but when you watch it, like, yeah, not that great, but it's ultimately betrayed by. I hesitate to think of a more vain thing where you have M. Night Shyamalan. The big twist of the movie is that there's a writer in our apartment who's so brilliant that he's going to save the world like a Jesus Christ figure.
That's
and
right.
Who does he cast in that role but himself?
Himself, of course.
And so there's a line in my ranking that I released a couple of days ago where I say, most people, if you get caught sucking your own dick, you'll have a stroke from embarrassment, but he filmed it and made you pay to see it in the theater. And so like, there's even commentary against movie critics in it, where the movie critic's the only person to bite it from the werewolves. And it's just, the whole thing just feels so overtly vain and pretentious.
Back-to-back Bryce Dallas Howard in this one too, Village and Now Here, and I think he probably moved away from her after the double negatives, right?
Yeah, and I like her as an actress. I mean,
I like her too.
She was probably okay in this one too. I don't remember much about it, but I remember Paul Giamatti. He's always good. You can give that guy shit, and he'll still trying to make lemonade out of it.
And Jeffrey Wright's great too.
Yeah,
she was fantastic in that Black Mirror episode. That's probably my favorite thing that she ever did, was that social media Black Mirror episode. Really good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I unfortunately saw The Happening. This movie. This movie is just comic gold from front to back.
I love it.
It's so fun in the dumbest way possible. Mm-hmm. This is probably his most rewatchable, like, so bad it's good film.
By a landslide.
Because there's guys running themselves over with lawnmowers. They're cliffing themselves off of rooftops. You have Mark Wahlberg, who's not a good actor to begin with, and he's having to say some of the worst lines imaginable. Zooey Deschanel's always cutely awkward, and it plays very well here. The plot, I know, like, here's the thing, is I don't even think this plot's bad. I think it's kind of an interesting concept of the trees fighting back and having us kill ourselves, but it's done in such a hokey, stupid way that, yeah, I don't know. It's like dumb War of the Worlds is how I look at it.
This is one of my favorite unintentional comedies of all time. If you watch it straight as intended, the 1 star is earned. It is M. Night at his worst.
Yeah.
When you watch it with the lens of this is really fucking stupid and we're going to have fun with it, I laugh my ass off every time. I mean, there's so many things in here that are just so weird that, I mean, the fucking hot dog guy, where like they come across him and he's like, we got a whole cooler full of hot dogs. They got a cool shape. They're full of protein. You like hot dogs, don't you? And like, there's so many things like that. And the death scenes that are supposed to be shocking because it was the first time that like M. Night was going for gore, and they're so hilarious. And like one of the best
outrunning the leaves or the wind or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, all right, guys, we gotta get over to the shack. Right, ready, let's go. So stupid.
One of the greatest things about this movie, I don't know if you've ever seen it, there is a behind the scenes clip that you can find probably on YouTube somewhere, where it's before they're shooting a scene and Mark Wahlberg is standing next to M. Night and he's literally calling out the bullshit in his own script. He's like, you know, the scene in the middle of the movie where they come across this bunkered down house and the 2 kids get shot?
Yeah, okay.
That they're beating on the doors or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's a clip out there where Mark Wahlberg, in the total serious Boston Mark Wahlberg, he's like, don't you think it's a little fucking stupid that we're stopping in the middle of nowhere for this house that's boarded up and clearly has nothing inside of it, and we're going to try to get inside of it? Like, what the fuck are we trying to get? Like, I'm paraphrasing, but he's sitting there next to the director, like, you know, this is absolutely fucking stupid, right? It's so fucking funny because it's just like, yes, it is that stupid, and that's why it's awesome.
They spend a good amount of time there too, don't they? Isn't the final act all at that dumb farmhouse place?
No, at the
Or
woman's house, but there's
yeah,
one
the
before
shack and
that
then the
where they're knocking on the door and the guy's just like, "Get out of here!" And then the kids all of a sudden start acting like violent. They're like, "Let us in, bitch!" And then a shotgun just comes out.
because everything's just gone to shit. Like it's day 360 of this event, and not
Yeah,
just 24 hours into it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this movie is phenomenal.
Yes,
It just
it's number 6 on my ranking just because I watch it through that lens and I fucking love it.
yeah,
Absolutely
Prey
love it.
Prey might be up there too then, in terms of like what the fuck is going on in
Yeah,
this. Okay, this one is
is
so
worst.
bad. Yeah, did you ever see the animated series?
No, I'm not really into anime style
Children's
cartoons and things
stuff.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I'm not
saw,
really into things for like 6-year-olds, Adam, you know?
but that should tell you how bad the movie is, where I don't even have the fanboy angle of look what you've
Yeah.
destroyed. I
Yeah.
just watch the movie straight and then I'm like, look what you destroyed.
Yeah, I did it. I got it from both ends because I saw this movie before I really was familiar with the animated series when it came out and thought it was atrocious. And then I watched the animated series years later and revisited this film to see if it was as bad as I remember, and it was actually much worse because I now have the
Yeah.
information of the animated show.
Well, from what I've been told, they basically try to squeeze an entire season of television into one movie.
Yeah.
And one thing you know you're fucked when the main character was only cast because he looked like the character. He's not even an actor. Like the story that if I remember correctly, he used to be called Airbender by his or Avatar by his classmates because of his bald head, and
Mhm.
he sent in like a kung fu video or whatever to M Night, and they're like, "You're cast. Fuck actors." And so that's the story of how he got cast.
He also bizarrely, I don't know if this was a studio thing, but for some reason, all the heroes were white and all the villains were Indian, but it's completely swapped in the animated show. Like the heroes are all of Indian descent and the bad guys are white. So yeah, kind of a odd flex to race swap every character in the most cliched Hollywood fashion, but they did it.
And
And they
don't they
did it.
completely fuck up the pronunciation of the main character's name? Like it's
Yeah, they
Ong and they call him Aang or vice versa?
it is Aang, and they call him Ong in the movie, which is
How do
hilarious.
you fuck
And
that up?
I don't know. I don't know, but everything's wrong. Again, everything's wrong. Appa, the flying bison, looks scary beyond all belief, and in the show, he's very cute and cuddly, and you want to fly on him like the
Mhm.
giant dog from Neverending Story, whatever the fuck that thing was called. This was a
Falcor.
terrible film. What Falcor?
Falcor, yeah.
Falcor. Thank you. Whenever I say Falcor, I think it's like Falcon, Captain Falcon from or Captain Falco. There's so many different variants of that name across
Mhm.
all the nerdy stuff that I pay attention to, from video games to movies. I really don't have anything nice to say about this movie. The way that they use the elements is silly. There's a scene in the movie that's freaking hilarious where you have a bunch of earthbenders and Cody in the show. These earthbenders, they do like a cool move and they hit the ground and a giant boulder will come up and they'll chuck it and it'll blow through like the side of a wall. In this film, M. Night has a shot where he has like 3 or 4 dudes and they're all going like, huh, 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 and they do like 6 different poses and they throw and it produces a tiny little rock, like this tiny little guy. And it took 3 or 4 dudes to make this. So just that's the level of stupid that we have here with Last Airbender. It's remarkable.
Crazy.
Let's move on. You're going to have to do all the talking, Cody, because I skipped After Earth and The Visit, and I've seen all the rest.
Okay.
But the Big Willie style with his kid just looked terrible, and I heard nothing but bad things.
I have it a little bit higher in my ranking than most people. Most people that I've seen have Lady in the Water, Last Airbender, and After Earth in the bottom 3, almost across the board in some order.
Okay.
I have it at 11. So 2 movies, Wide Awake and Old, I have underneath this one. It's just generic. There's just nothing that really stands out about it. It's not really like there's no like overt flaws to it that's just embarrassing like some of the other ones. But it's just a big nothing burger. Like It's very much like this nepotism project where you have Will Smith. At this time, M. Night is a nobody. I mean, he's had like
Sure.
4 huge misses. I mean, I don't remember if this was before or after Devil came out, which he just produced. You remember Devil with the elevator?
No.
So there's this movie Devil where 5 people are stuck in an elevator and one of them is the devil. Pretty decent
Oh.
little thriller, but he just produced it. And I remember when that trailer came out for Devil. I'm pretty sure it was after The Happening and Last Airbender, where he's just his name means nothing. The movie looks pretty good, and then by the halfway point of the trailer, it comes up from the mind of M. Night Shyamalan. And every time I was in the theater and that trailer played, half of the theater would go, oh. And so it was actually going viral at one point. It was called the M. Night Groan, and people were filming it because everybody across the fucking world are like, fuck, it looked good for a second. Anyway, After Earth comes after that, and his name doesn't mean much. And so Will Smith comes in and literally takes over the project. Like it's documented. He pretty much bullied M. Night Shyamalan into making the movie that he wanted to make, which is a vehicle
Beautiful.
for his son. Unfortunately, his son's just not a very good actor. Outside of Pursuit of Happiness, I think that they work really well together there. But you have a situation where the charismatic movie star is injured and sidelined for the entire movie for the non-charismatic non-movie star to take the lead. And so there's some interesting visuals and creature designs with like this prehistoric Earth. There's some action in there. So I don't think it's like unwatchable bad. It's just bland as fuck.
Yeah, it kind of looked like that shitty Tim Burton Planet of the Apes movie when I saw the trailer.
Yes. Something
And
along that lines. But
yeah,
it's just you can't help but see Will Smith saying, "See, love my son. He's awesome." And it's like, but he's not. Can you switch places and he be injured and you take over the movie? Because it might be okay then.
it doesn't always translate
Yeah.
from father to son. It does not always translate. All right, this one I think my
Never
wife
seen it,
and
but you rated it. I'm kidding.
I told you my reviews are bullshit on here. Hang on. The terrifying story of a brother and his sister who are sent to the grandparents' remote. Yeah, I have not seen this movie. I don't know why it's got rating on it. Let's get rid of that. I have not watched it.
Premise
That's
sounds
bizarre.
good. 3.5.
That's bizarre. Once the children discover the elderly couple is involved in something deeply. Wait, is this the one where they're like aliens? The parents?
No.
This is what is the old people though, and they like climb on the walls and the ceiling.
No. This
Okay.
is
What the fuck is that movie then?
I'm not sure.
There's a movie where there's these 2 old people and they like climb on the ceiling, and I mean that's like half the horror movies that come out today, so I guess I don't know.
Yeah,
Never
I'm
mind.
not sure.
It turns out they're not really their grandparents.
That is the twist, but I don't remember them crawling on the ceiling. They act weird. They crawl through a crawl space and they say a lot of strange shit. But
Okay.
yeah, this is like a found footage movie where these 2 kids are sent off with their grandparents and they communicate with their mom through their laptop. And the grandparents are increasingly weird, especially at night. And like they ask the little girl to get into the oven and clean it, and they open the door and like the grandma's fucking like naked, scratching on the walls and shit.
Like a Hansel and Gretel type of situation here.
Yeah, and then ultimately by the like 2/3 of the way, they tell their mom that, you know, grandma and grandpa are acting weird, and they, you know, show them something, and the mom's like, "Those aren't your grandparents. Who are they?" And I thought the movie was fine. This was the movie that everybody said was like his big comeback, where they were like, "Holy shit, it's actually decent. Maybe he's on a comeback now." And I think it's fine. I think it's okay. It's I'm not really big on found footage, so I'm not really the target for this. I think that this is one of his more obvious twists, where again it kind of works against you when you're the twist guy and you're like, they're off with their grandparents. What could the twist be? It's not their grandparents. So it was very easy for me to figure out early on in the movie what was going to eventually happen. And this is one of those examples where I feel like his comedic writing really doesn't work. A lot of people think this is his funniest movie, and that's totally fair. I don't like the humor in this movie at all. I think that the kid that tries to be a rapper is annoying. Some of the things that are meant to be funny are just weird, like where they put the shitty diaper in his face. I mean, it's just
I've definitely not seen this movie now that you're describing it more.
Yeah, it's fine. It's actually pretty decent. It's just I don't hold it nearly as high as some people that just I think they just expected trash at this point, and because it was pretty good, they remember it being much better.
Okay. Well, M. Night kind of like redeems himself, I would say 100% with Split, because this movie, I went in with very low expectations. Obviously, when you have James McAvoy freaking owning the role, he's gonna sell you every time. He's playing like 10 or 11 different personalities throughout the film. I might be completely off.
I think I think he's does 4 in this one, and you get like 4 or 5 more in Glass.
And you have Anya Taylor-Joy, I think, right?
Yes.
Isn't she's the victim that he kidnaps? Yeah, let's just read the synopsis. Though Kevin has evidenced 23 personality. What the fuck? Is that a sentence? Has evidenced 23 personalities? I've never heard that. To his trusted psychiatrist, Dr. Fletcher, there remains one still submerged who is set to materialize and dominate all the others, compelled to abduct 3 teenage girls led by the willful, observant Casey. Kevin reaches a war for survival among all those contained within him. Is it Casey or Cassie? I don't know. As well as everyone around him, as the walls between his compartments shatter apart.
What a horribly written premise.
Yeah, that was terrible. There was like 2 sentences in this whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that didn't really.
Guy with multiple personalities kidnaps a few girls to be feasted on by the one personality that is yet to emerge.
And the whole movie basically takes place inside of a warehouse in the back room, and it's just James McAvoy absolutely dominating it in every scene he's in. And then there's the huge twist at the end that no one knew about, which was impressive, which is this movie is in the same universe as Unbreakable, which was very cool. I like, this was one of the only times in recent memory where they showed the cafe and Bruce Willis was sitting there at the bar. And I'm like, oh, what? That's Bruce Willis. Hey! I'm watching it with Lindsay, who has no fucking clue what's going on. It's like, what? What is your problem? Like, that's Unbreakable.
I was the freak in my theater too. Yeah. I recognized the music that was leading up to it.
Yeah,
they started playing the music, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And everybody's like, "What?" And then even Bruce Willis was like,
"It's Bruce Willis. It's Unbreakable." Okay, nerd. I really like this movie. This is easily one of his strongest, top 5 for sure for me from him. And I can't wait to talk about Glass with you, Cody, because you were kind of quiet when I was shooting on it. So I really want to know how you could possibly like that film, because so far we've been so good with each other.
You'll find out. But yeah,
you like this movie, obviously?
Easily his best film in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
It's my number 4. Like it's easily his best. I think that again, like his dialogue choices sometimes really don't work, but when you have it with an actor on the level of James McAvoy who sells it and makes it a part of the character, etc., like that kind of stuff, it really works. And so you have him, just an acting powerhouse that's just amazing to watch. You have Anya Taylor-Joy, who's really good. It's a movie that's genuinely tense, and you're really curious where things are going to go all throughout. And a really interesting story about broken people underneath the surface, where, you know, rejoice, and he sees the scars and realizes that she's like him in some way. And then, yes, one of his best executed twists, because it's not really a plot twist. It's a twist for the audience. It's a twist for your awareness of his previous filmography. And so that's, I don't know if anybody could predict that, because it has nothing to do with the story itself. It just reframes it of like, it was already a good movie, but now there's actually implications to where this is going to go, where I would have assumed it's a one and done. And that was really awesome. Like, it was one of those twists where I was like, I was chomping at the bit to tell my dad, because me and him have always been like, man, I wish they do an Unbreakable 2. And then I saw that and I was like, oh, fuck, they're doing it.
And you still wish it to this day. I will say this is such a cool twist from M. Night, because he took his whole twist thing and he modernized it in an MCU era. It really has that kind of, oh, Tony Stark's coming out at the end and introducing the next Avengers film. He did it within his own universe.
Yes.
And it just played so well with an audience of today who expects a post-credit scene at this point at every freaking opportunity. I'm sure every time you go to the theater now, you'll notice there's a lot of people just sticking around even after twisters, or it doesn't matter what it is, because they're just waiting for something. They don't know what.
Doesn't it piss you off when it's a movie that has no business having a post-credit scene, but then you get home and everybody's like, how about that post-credit scene? And you're like, fuck.
Bad Boys 4, man, did not expect that ending. What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. The one that got me bad was X. With like, did you see the teaser for the next one? And I was like, fuck, no.
They had a teaser at it. Oh, it was the trailer, right? For
Pearl.
Maxine and for Pearl. Yeah, they did the double feature thing.
Yeah.
Okay. God. I hate this movie with the passion of 1,000 suns.
Hide it well.
It was it was the promise of this great like culmination of 20 years of films between Unbreakable and Split coming together, see these two powerhouses, good versus evil. But instead, he opts to just put him in a psych ward and make Anya Taylor-Joy the focus for the most part. And then we just have these like barely any interactions between Bruce Willis and McAvoy, leading to the most comical final battle at the playground, basically, where Bruce Willis dies in a fucking puddle of water. God, I was frustrated with this film. I blacked out most of the movie, so I would have to really go back or point you to my spoiler video and my full review to even remember what the hell happened. But it was nothing but anger coming out of that theater. Cody, tell me why it's great.
I completely understand why people don't like it. This is not one of those movies where I will be the pretentious asshole on Twitter telling you just didn't get it. And this is the reason. This is the intention. And if you don't like it, you should just stop asking questions and enjoy the movie. Did I do it right, Twitter? Anyway.
It's very diplomatic of you.
Yes. Glass is a movie that when I saw it, I'm like, oh, yeah, this is going to piss a lot of people off. But I really like what it does. And what it does is it recontextualizes the trilogy to be Mr. Glass kind of as the hero of the story in a way. Where you have, it was great to see. I agree with the disappointment, the bittersweet part of not getting enough Bruce Willis as David Dunn. We waited for, almost 2 decades for him to come back and for you to get just a kind of a segment of him doing his crime fighting thing. And then the rest of the movie, they're in this asylum. And then the way that it ends, it does feel like we kind of waited and didn't get enough. But I really like how, you have this very non-conventional setup for this big third movie in a trilogy. Again, kind of subverting your comic book expectations, where they keep teasing you all throughout the movie about this tower, this bridge or something. And you're like, oh, that's where the final battle is going to be. And then eventually you have the third act where, Glass figures out that the train wreck that he caused not only birthed David Dunn, but also birthed, I forget what the Horde, is that what they call James McAvoy, I believe? Pretty sure they call him the Horde. But he has given birth to both of them essentially, which is something that after I knew that it was an Unbreakable and I watched Split again, I figured that out with the train where he goes to like honor his parents and then comes back as the beast. But anyway, so you have that revelation, and then the third act is him getting them to fight, like this big climactic fight out in front of the thing, and then out in front of the asylum, and then they both die. One gets shot, I think. Then David Dunn gets put into the puddle. It's revealed that I forget the actress's name, but she's really big in American Horror Story. So somebody in the chat. Sarah Paulson. Sarah Paulson reveals that she's a part of this secret society that is aware that people have these powers, and they've been trying to subdue it for generations, which just feeds into what Mr. Glass's ultimate plan was from Unbreakable. And then the ultimate twist that he knew they weren't going to make it out alive, but they're not going to die in vain. They're going to prove to the world that this is a thing. And now it's going to give birth to this new era of superheroes and supervillains. And so you have the 3 characters that are the side characters sitting in the train station as the news hits the world of the video of the Horde versus David Dunn. And now everybody on Earth that has a superpower or some kind of thing is now going to be awakened. Like, I thought thematically, while being bittersweet, was a very appropriate conclusion to this trilogy. And would it have been more awesome if it was more straightforward and more what we expected? Maybe. We'll never see that movie, but I really appreciated what he did with it.
I don't mind the idea of Glass being the central figure. That makes sense.
Mhm.
That makes total sense because that would be the tie that brings these two characters together. I guess the big issue, and again, it's been a long time. I haven't watched this movie again since I saw it in theaters, so it's been many years. I had the same issues with this one that I had with Trap, where Trap is actually a pretty cool idea done in the dumbest way possible, with so many like not even just plot holes, but just weird decisions made by everybody in the film, the way he shoots things, the fact that there's like 3 security guards for this maximum psych ward. There was just a lot of stuff that made no sense at all. So I could not get past the dumb shit to enjoy the story he was trying to tell.
Mhm.
And that's where I land on Glass, which is unfortunate. Now, Old is another one where I don't know. I've seen Old twice. I don't hate Old, and Old is a shit show of a film. It's like super easy to poke holes in. There's tons of stuff that make no sense, but M. Night gets me along for the ride in a way where I can at least enjoy the mysteries and what's going on, knowing in the back of my mind that there's no way this is going to have a satisfying conclusion.
Mhm.
Where are you at with this one?
I don't like this movie at all.
Yeah,
And
not
I
at all.
was I was on an M. Night high because, as I've just
Yeah,
said, really liked Split, really liked Glass. I'm like, "He's back, baby. Here we go." And then you walk into Old, which a really intriguing premise. People are on this beach, they're stuck, and they're aging rapidly. And what I loved about the movie was the body horror, where you get like the scene where the chick gets tetanus and it goes through her whole
yeah,
body, or the
yeah,
bones breaking and healing rapidly. And like that was really cool. And I wish they explored that more, but it's just like
yeah.
little segments here and there. But aside from the fact that I hate the twist and I hate the explanation we're given for all of this,
Hmm.
the movie is so unappealing and weird with the way that it explores things. First of all, you still have M. Night signature strange dialogue. Like you got a
Oh
kid
yeah,
walking around going, "Hello, what's your name and occupation?" And it just feels like this shortcut way to get exposition out of the way and let us know who these characters are in the most fucking bizarre way possible. You got a rapper stuck on the beach with him who's named Mid-Sized Sedan,
yeah.
which is just like, why does that exist?
Oh,
But
what's the catchphrase that they tried to make a thing in Trap? Like Scorched or something? Remember he was trying to talk like a teenage girl at one point?
yeah, oh, what was it?
Was it
Yeah, something
Scorched?
along those
Okay,
lines.
anyway, yeah, he always tries this shit and it never works, where he's like,
Yeah.
what's a rapper name that makes sense?
Stop
Mid-sized
trying to
sedan.
make this happen."
Exactly.
But yeah, the way that they explore this is just so unappealing and weird. Like, I'll never get over the we're gonna have 6-year-olds go off in a tent, fuck, and have a baby, and come
I
out,
love
where they're
that.
still mentally children, and it's
Yeah.
so weird, and I'm like,
It
"Dude,
hits
did you not?"
happening levels a few times in this movie where I just kind of sit back and enjoy the ridiculous ride of it all. I'm also a sucker for a nice beach setting, and I will say that visually this is probably one of his best looking films. I like how it's shot. I like the
Mhm.
eeriness of just the again we have the water. He's all about the water in this movie. Yeah, the twist is terrible. It makes no sense. I did like how they went past the twist though for a bit and kind of warned people at the resort about what's going on. That felt like some decent closure to an otherwise stupid premise. But yeah, it's just so weird and different, and I guess that's why for me, and I would imagine for you, that's why M. Night will always kind of have a special place in my heart because he does new, completely different things than any other filmmaker, even if he's missing more than he's not. I think that it would be nice if maybe someone else maybe touched up his scripts. I don't know if anybody else looks at him besides maybe his daughter.
Yeah, I mean, that's what always draws me in. Like, it doesn't matter how many times he has really made a stinker. It doesn't matter how many times he's taken a big swing and it ends up being a big miss. Like, every time I hear the premise of his new movie, almost without exception, I'm like, fuck, you bastard, I'm back. And I always go in like hoping for the best, like I did with Trap. I thought the premise was awesome, and I was really
Yeah,
excited for it. And I was like, I love Josh Hartnett. M. Night usually does really good with these simple premises that doesn't go too bananas. So this should be awesome. There's no reason why it shouldn't be.
yeah.
And wah.
Yeah, it's funny because I can see why everyone hates movies that I can stomach, and I can see why people hate movies that I also hate. I get all of the angles with M. Night films because they really are so bizarre, just
Mhm.
top to bottom. And again, Old, not a good movie. It's a watchable shit show.
Yeah.
And there are so many fucking things that don't make sense. Actually, the main issue I had with it, and I said this in my spoiler video of Old, is at one point they go into the caves and they black out every time they go into the caves, and then they appear on the beach again. How?
Mhm.
How are they appearing on the beach? We know that there's like scientists monitoring them on cameras. Do they have like suits on and they're sneaking in there and putting them back on the beach with no one noticing? It makes no sense. Oh, this movie's great.
Yeah.
Okay, two more. Knock at the Cabin. I gave this a 3 also because I felt like it's just there and it's watchable and it's boring and I never think about it again.
Yeah, I think
Also,
I rated it slightly higher, but it was like maybe 3.5 or something like that. But
yeah,
this was a frustrating one
yeah.
because great premise. I think that it's probably Batista's best performance, and he's one of those guys that I've been kind of fascinated eating my words about him. Like, whenever he first started acting, I'm like, here we go, another wrestler. And maybe more than any other ones, he's really focused on like, I want to work with filmmakers and I want to work, making my acting better. I'm not just going for the big hulking muscular guy and, doing Jungle Cruise and shit like that. Like
Well,
he's
I
working
think,
with
funny enough, I think out of the wrestler UFC crew, Dwayne Johnson's probably the worst actor of them, and he's the most successful because you also have because I think Bautista's great at what he
Mhm.
does, and I also think who's the Peacemaker actor?
Cena.
John
Yes.
Cena. I think Cena's really funny, and he's great at a lot of action roles. Dwayne Johnson's just like the same dude in every single movie. It's insane.
I
But
used to love The Rock, and I used to love what he brought, but I've gotten really wore thin on the types of movies that he makes, where it's just like,
yeah.
dude, can we get like a Rundown or the Driven or Driver, whatever it was called, and some
Rundown
of
is
those.
still probably his best movie, and it was
I
one of his
agree.
first big ones. And
Yeah, it's like, can
it's
we
also
can we
like
get
an hour and 20 minutes long, which I love.
yeah. And then I see the advertisement to his new film where he's an elf trying to save Santa, and it's like, dude, stop making these fucking movies and
I
just get
know.
out of that PG-13 4-quadrant bullshit.
It's so
Anyway,
bad.
totally different video for another time. But Knock at
Yeah.
the Cabin, I think the premise is great. I think the first act of the movie is awesome, where it sets everything up.
Yeah.
The problem with Knock at the Cabin is that it gets into this wash, rinse, repeat rut where
Yeah.
you have, we're the fourth horseman. The world's going to end if one of you don't kill one of your family members. Are you ready to do this? No, I'm not. Okay. Turn on the TV. Show a natural disaster. Turn the TV off. Kill one of us.
I love that
Fast
too. That the trope of the TV always the news always saying exactly what they needed to say right when they turn it on.
Yeah, and then
So
it
good.
just repeats that over and over. It literally does it
Yeah.
4 times over and over, and so it's one of those movies that you're like, "This better have a fucking twist because this is just,
Mhm.
like, a repetitive." And then you get to the end and it just ends, which is
Yeah.
so puzzling because when you look at the ending that the book had that this is based off of, there's somewhat of a twist there. So why, of all filmmakers in the world, the twist guy, why would you take the twist and remove it and make the ending vanilla? So do you know how the story ends in the book?
No.
Okay, so you have the gay couple and you have the little girl, right?
Sure.
And in the movie, one of the dads gets killed.
Hmm.
In the book, the little girl gets killed.
Oh, damn.
And by the end of it, they reject everything else that they're supposed to do because they basically take this attitude of, well, if God exists and this is what we have to do to save this earth, fuck this earth. And they
Yeah.
just go off to the apocalypse. I'm
Yeah, for
kind of
those
paraphrasing
that
it.
don't
And
know, this whole movie is essentially just a trolley problem film. There's just a group of people at this cabin. They
mhm,
have to kill one of them has to die in order for the apocalypse to not take place. And
yes,
it's just as straightforward as that. And
yes,
they have, that's it. That's the whole movie. There's no twist, there's nothing. And so
yes.
you're saying in the book they kill the girl instead of one of the dads and the apocalypse does take place because they reject
Well,
everything.
I've only seen it once, but I'm pretty sure, and they might say this in the movie too, where they have to be the one that kills one of their family members. I think the dad gets killed fighting one of the four horsemen,
Okay.
and it's kind of the same thing. Like she dies inadvertently because of something that's going on, and it doesn't fit the rules. So it's like, well, fuck, she's dead, but you still have to save the world. And they basically say, fuck the world now. Like, if this is God's plan, fuck this plan. And they go off to, an uncertain future where the apocalypse is about to happen. And it's like, that's such a better ending than the one that we got, where they just leave. Yeah, it's so it's a movie that I think is good, but it gets less interesting as it goes along, and then it just fizzles out for an ending, which is just such a anti M. Night thing to do that it still puzzles me.
Are all of M. Night, now that I think about this, are almost all of his movies bottle episodes where they take place in one central location?
I mean,
a lot of them are
Signs, The Village-ish,
Lady in the Water,
Visit,
Glass,
Split, Old, Knock at the Cabin, and Trap.
Trap.
Quite a few of them.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of them are this really just focus on one central idea and location and then let it play out from there, which isn't bad. It's interesting that he's been doing that a lot, which leads us to Trap. Jesus. Look, I rated it 1.5. I gave it a little extra half.
So did I. Well, 1.75, I think I gave it, but regardless.
Yeah, the review score, don't be fooled by the score. This movie's crap. We have a movie, a bottle episode of sorts, taking place at a concert, Ariana Grande, Taylor Swift-esque, except for it's M. Night's daughter, which is really the biggest twist trap of them all. This whole movie, like I said in one of my videos, it's not even a movie. It really is just a Nepo advertisement for his daughter. I don't even want to say her name because it's not fair that she gets such a spotlight shown on her because of her dad. She's not a great actress. The singing was fine. If you like generic pop music, it's going to get the job done. But holy shit, we're talking like 30% of this film are full songs. It's like I was at the Taylor Swift movie with my daughter again, and I just could not believe how much time they spent on this concert. And the premise is simple. We have Cooper, who is one of, I guess, every man in the building, a suspect of to this murderer that's killed 10 people, dismembered their bodies, left them all over the place. The FBI has set up a trap to stop him. They don't know what he looks like. They know he may have a tattoo on his wrist. He might be a black guy. He might be an elderly man with white hair.
They got like 4 or 5 different profiles.
It might be 2 kids on top of each other wearing a trench coat and a hat. It's insane. This is the dumbest fucking. So like the concept was cool, but then when you start to narrow down into what information they had, it becomes completely ridiculous that they would search a 20,000 seat arena to pull over basically every man that's there. And what are they going to do then? Question him? What did they even do when they pulled over people? Shine a light in their face and then walk away? I don't know. Once it leaves the concert, it somehow gets even more stupid. In fact, the whole, I'd say, last act of this movie goes completely off the rails. Every decision makes no sense. I'm sure we'll get into spoilers, but Cody, did you like anything in this film, or were you just frustrated from beginning to end?
No, I did like some things. I think Josh Hartnett is very good. The times where it doesn't work for me is because of the writing of the direction. I think that he does a very good job as an actor selling the multiple faces of this character, for lack of a better term. I really liked his daughter too, and much like how Joaquin Phoenix is kind of like the one that grounds Signs, I think that even though it's not enough, she's the one person that is somewhat trying to ground this, where every single time he says something fucking weird, she just calls bullshit on it immediately. And it's like, that's an appropriate response. A human would say that. I think that for the most part, like his shot choice and everything's pretty good. There's some confusing choices where like there's a segment where he's talking to this woman that is his neighbor or something, or she's the mother of the daughter her daughter's feuding with.
It's Karen.
And it keeps doing this POV thing where it shows his face, and then when it reverses the shot, it's POV style. And then they never do that again. They don't stick with that.
No, they did it. They did it with the vendor too, the T-shirt vendor. They did this weird
Correct.
back and forth.
Yeah. So
It is
they
weird too because most filmmakers will do kind of an over-the-shoulder shot, or they'll give you the vantage point so you can see that there's another person on the other end of the combo, because it
Mhm.
does come off as completely disconnected. Like, did they shoot these guys at separate times? What's going on
Yeah,
here?
and so it's something that it wasn't really done enough to feel like there was a
Yeah,
point there. It felt like kind of scattered.
yeah,
I think that the way that he's able to pull off getting us to buy into this concert, and like clearly he's shot it in a place that's much smaller than they're trying to make you believe it is,
yeah.
and I think he does a good job at pulling that off. And to an extent, with the exception of the fact that somebody who's supposed to be as massive a star as Lady Raven is on stage and half the fucking people in the arena are just out taking a shit and getting merch and everything the whole movie. Aside from that, he does a
Yeah,
pretty good job at kind of giving you the experience of what it's like to go to a concert for the first
yeah,
act. So yeah, there's things about it that I liked, but it's one of those movies that it falls apart in two ways. One, this is one of the times where his weird, quirky alien dialogue doesn't work, and people give the explanation of, well, that's Josh Hartnett being inhuman and trying to act human. Which the two problems with that is he's not the only person that talks that way, and two, if they're searching for the fucking serial killer pretending to be human, he makes it awful goddamn obvious it's him by the way he talks.
right.
And then two, the movie is just riddled with bullshit. Like
Yeah,
there's something to be said about sometimes forgiving logic with a movie and just kind of going along for the story. But this movie relies on bullshit where
yeah.
it's like every 45 seconds at some points where it's like one after another, after another, after another. And it's like, dude, this bullshit snowball has now grown and I can't just ignore it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's basically Houdini in this film. Maybe they should have marketed it that way, or mentioned it in the film. Like, listen, this guy Cooper, he can slip out of any situation. He's just like a magician at the end of the day. There's a scene earlier on in the concert when the floor rises up, and he keeps looking at it like, I'm gonna slip down here. I'm gonna convince my daughter to come with me. Wouldn't that be fun? What are they gonna do from there then? They're just gonna walk down the hallway and out the exit door. They've established there's guards everywhere. And Lady Raven arrived in a limo, or I'm sorry, Lady Raven arrived on a bus, like a tour bus, and she leaves in a limo. So it's
Mhm.
just all these weird inconsistencies from point A to point B. The favorite of mine has to be where we are in spoilers here, but Cooper convinces Lady Raven that he's holding a guy captive. He holds her the phone. He says, with one push of a button, I can kill this guy. She stays quiet, which was ballsy on his part. Like, he's willing to trust this pop singer that she's not going to just yell to anybody at any given time. Like, hey, this guy's he's the killer. So she goes along with it. She escorts him to her limo. She has no security, even though she's the most popular singer on the planet. No security at all. They get into the limo, and his master plan is to just get let go on the corner. Just
Yeah.
drop me off with my daughter, and we'll be on our way. What was the end goal there? He didn't
Yeah.
think she was going to rat him out. He thought he could just get in his car and drive home, no problem. They have security tapes everywhere. This was ridiculous.
I mean, at the whole third act to me is where it just really goes off the rails, and it's like every 5 seconds or something
Yeah.
that makes no sense. I mean, I wasn't even bought into the fact that he had to reveal himself to Lady Raven. I'm like, you've gotten past security left and right with
Yeah.
pretty much no effort this entire movie, but the one guy standing at the door, you're afraid of him, so now let's reveal ourselves. Didn't buy into that at all. But then, like you said, yeah, you let us off in the corner. I'm like, then what? And then, then
Profit?
she wants to play the hero game, which okay, sure. And then they go to the house and she's fucking with him and she grabs his phone and goes into the bathroom. And
No
I didn't.
password. By the way, no password protection on his phone.
Not only
Just
that, why the fuck would this guy not plow through the door and get his phone? Like he's just knocking on the door. And I brought that up and somebody said, well, he doesn't want to reveal that side of himself to his family. And my response to that is when the cops get here in 3 minutes, his fucking side's going to be revealed anyway. So I didn't believe for a second that he was just going to stand out there and just knock vigorously.
but to your point, even about her playing hero, he kept wanting her to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So why was she in the house?
Mm-hmm.
They get to the home. He's like, okay, see you later. And Lady Raven makes the decision to jump into the house. She's like, oh, I'm gonna come over and we're gonna eat and I'm gonna play you a song. Bitch, you have
Mm-hmm.
his address. You know what he looks like? Say goodbye, call the cops, give him the information. Done. You save the guy still. I mean, what was the end game there? It made no sense.
Yeah, you have that, and then the one part of the third act where it started to win me back was the only bit of twist that you get where after all the bullshit of him teleporting outside of the fucking limo surrounded by people, he eventually goes back to his home and realizes that his wife is the one that sprung the trap for him.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. Okay, I'll forgive you giving me a fake out ending and then now continuing on another 15 minutes too long.
But again, why would, if the wife suspects him, I did, full disclosure, I went to the bathroom around this scene because I figured it was going to be a long monologue of his. I didn't care. And I came back and apparently I missed the part where she found the receipt or something to the concert.
This is the explanation that she gives. And yes, that's exactly where I was going. Because when it started to go there, I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. And the explanation that she gives is like more bullshit where I'm like, no, you just fucked it up. So basically what she tells him is that she started to get suspicious that he would be out late continuously. And so the first assumption she made was that he was cheating. And so she followed him and he eventually went to one of these empty houses that he uses for his, torture chambers or whatever. But this one was an empty one that he just goes to think at sometimes. Yeah. And so she follows him. He leaves. She goes back to it when he's not there and it's empty. But the thought occurred to her, what if my husband is this butcher guy that they've been talking about on the news? So rather than make an anonymous, if you have to, phone call to the police and say, hey, I think the butcher is this guy at this address, letting the cops arrest him and then seeing if they have the evidence to tie him to all of this and coming to the conclusion that either he is the butcher or no, you got it wrong. She says, I'm going to take the receipt of this concert ticket that he bought and I'm going to purposely tear it so it looks like an accident. I'm going to leave the receipt at this empty house and then I'm going to make the anonymous phone call to get them to come to this house so that they'll see the receipt and then they'll go to the arena with 3,000 people and my daughter and they'll surround the arena and then on the off chance that they actually catch my husband, then they can investigate and see whether or not he's the butcher or not. It was like such a go around your ass 3 times to get to your elbow thing.
It was almost too easy. It was almost too simple. Yeah, like, hey, let me have my daughter go in harm's way with the guy who might be cutting up people to an arena instead of, I don't know, maybe just have the cops stop by the house and question my husband. I imagine the phone call was something like, yeah, hey, officer, I'm suspecting my husband's butcher because he's been staying out late. And also there's a giant mound of dirt in my backyard from where he's been digging a tunnel through our house. Like he's Andy Dufresne kicking the dirt out while playing baseball. What the fuck? How did he get away with this?
Yeah.
He has a tunnel he dug under the... They don't show him go through the tunnel, do they? Doesn't he just kind of say it?
He escapes in the SWAT gear and drives away with Lady Raven, and then the profiler chick goes on the radio. He's escaped. He went through a tunnel that he dug to his neighbor's yard, and it just zooms in on this little ladder.
And it's like, we ran out of budget. I don't have anything left to like film or create a tunnel, so that's just gonna be something we say offhandedly. Speaking of FBI agents, Miss Bliss from Saved by the Bell, she's the main agent lady who's completely useless in this film. She comes off like a total dumbass the whole movie. The only thing I was kind of having in my head canon to make this movie make more sense was they were doing, have you ever seen David Fincher's The Game?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought maybe they were doing that, where she knows his psychological profile so well, and she actually knows it's this dude, Cooper, that the whole trap is all these people he comes into contact with are in on it. So like the t-shirt guy, they're purposely pushing him in these directions. And that's why at the end, he's in the hallway right next to Miss Bliss. I'm like, oh, okay, we're going to get this reveal. But no, that's not it. It turns out the only reason she's in this film is because Cooper has psychological problems and he keeps seeing his mother show up, even though it happens one time to my recollection in the movie, which is it? I only remember her showing up next to the stretcher.
At least twice. They show her in the bathroom too, where he's washing his face and he looks to the left and there's an old woman in the bathroom. And somebody comes up and then move and she's gone.
Okay, so at least twice. Yes, he has these little quick Fight Club-esque shots of Tyler Durden showing up. and it's I guess the FBI agent lady kind of looks like her, so
Yeah, they pulled a Pamela Voorhees on him.
just the final thing where she's in the doorway. He's like, "Mom, mom," and it's the FBI agent. So,
by the way, how cute that they think that he's in a car, possibly in the middle of a crowded street, and they open fire with fucking assault rifles. But when they know he's in a house and he's a danger to everybody, they pull out the tasers. But
they pull out assault rifles with people everywhere around the limo.
Not only that, like I thought that was such a missed opportunity for an amazing joke. That scene where he's in the car with Lady Raven and she tries doing that same thing where she's like, "Young man, you're misbehaving," or whatever the fuck she says, trying to fuck with him and think that she's his mother. I thought it would have been so funny because we've seen that done in the Friday the 13th movies and other. It's such a trope at this point. I thought it would have been fucking hilarious if you had this scene where she tries that and she's chastising him in the voice of a mother, like you never behave, and I never whatever the hell she says, go on for like a good 30 seconds, and then reverse shot to to Cooper and him just go like, "What the fuck was that? I'm gonna kill the fuck out of you when we get out of here." Like something like that. It would have been awesome. But no, he's just like, "What, mother?" or whatever.
No, instead it's more dumb even. So that actually kind of works. He opens the garage door and his family's there, and he's like, "Oh, my worlds are colliding. I didn't think that you could climb out a window. What?"
Yeah.
And she's kind of like Peter Griffin slowly. He's like, "I gotta hit that dusty trail."
And then doesn't fucking leave. She just stays in the limo. I'm gonna see how this plays out.
I made a joke that she's like slowly leaving, then goes back for a chapstick quick, and she kind of just keeps going. He's like, it's so funny how he's kidnapped her essentially 3 times, and all 3 times he doesn't care about her at all. In the limo, he's like, "Yeah, okay, bye." In the car, bye. And then again in the limo later, she's leaving in the back seat, and he's like, "Okay, whatever, I'm done." Yeah, great movie. Also, Miss Bliss, I mentioned, that's Haley Mills, I think is the actress from way back in Parent Trap. She played the young girl. So here she is now trapping a parent. Yeah. And that's what M. Night was thinking. I'm going to cast the girl from Parent Trap to trap a parent. It's such a twist. It's so brilliant.
Yeah.
No, this movie sucked, but overall, what's that?
You just didn't get it.
I didn't get it. Yeah, I didn't understand. Overall, Cody, what are your thoughts on M. Night to put a bow on this? And while we give our final thoughts about this gentleman, please get in super chats now. We'll read them at the end. If you have any questions for Cody or anything about M. Night, anything about movies, put them in now.
Yeah, I mean, he's a fascinating filmmaker, even to this day, even with Trap being a disappointment. He's one of those guys that he's had some of my favorite movies of all time. Namely the big 3.
Happening, Happening, of course.
Yes, exactly. He's also made some of the worst films that I've seen, and he's got a whole bunch of chaos in between. I think that he's brilliant at coming up with concepts. I think that he can be a good writer, but I just don't think he spends enough time on his scripts nowadays. Like, especially now, he's in this turn and burn phase where we've had 3 M. Night films in the last 4 years. And he's got 4 more in the works. Plus, he's producing.
Well, maybe 4. Yeah, I was gonna say maybe 4 if you count The Watchers as kind of his movie.
Yeah, and so you look at Trap and the fact that he's already got 4 more movies in some form of writing and production, and it's just like Trap could have been awesome if you just spend a little more time on it and iron out the kinks and get rid of some of the logic gaps that you cheated with. And that's what's frustrating about him now, is that it just feels like he gets the concept and then everything else is just kind of like half-ass. And
what's the over-under on this being part of the Glass universe?
It's funny you say that, because one of the multiple endings, twists that my brain was subconsciously going through, one of them was that slide popped in front of me of the music coming up, and I was like, no, I don't want that. Don't go back to that well. We're done. And by the end of this film, I was actually thinking, like, if they end up saying this is in the Unbreakable world and there's some power that he has to slip in and out of these situations, it's actually going to fix a lot of issues. But they didn't fucking do that.
Where everybody becomes incredibly stupid around him or something. Like he just has the ability to charm everyone to zombified nature. We got to bring up, I'm sorry, I got to go back to this. You gave your final thoughts, but the scene where he gets to go to the bike, I was laughing at how ridiculous this was.
And he got to hug his fucking daughter.
He just just dug out the
nationwide
eyes.
manhunt for this man, murdered and brutalized 12 people, and they're just like, what's the worst that could happen? Yeah,
He just
let her
rips
give
out
him
the
a hug.
bike spoke, which is not something that you can just like slide off. It's like king, you know. So it's like I just picture him like king. Pull it out. What's going on down there? Nothing. Hey, is Johnny okay? I know he just dug out his eyes 20 seconds ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think M. Night's got a lot of talent. He's certainly capable behind the camera. He's been doing this a long time, and he has given us incredibly memorable movies for better and for worse. I still get giddy and excited whenever I see a trailer from him, even though I know in the back of my mind I'm probably going to be pissed and let down by his film. The ride is always, I think, worth it at the end of the day. So, keep going, M. Night. We'll see if you're going to shadow direct your daughter anymore or if she can kind of spread her wings. What did you think of her movie, by the way? Did you like it?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a little better than Trap, although
Yeah.
Trap's concept appeals more to me, but it's same thing. I mean, a really interesting premise. Yeah, really interesting premise that falls apart the more that they try to twist and explain it. And it has like one of those M. Night logic things where I was like, okay, so wait a minute. You've been stuck in this one room for months, maybe years, I forget, but a long fucking time. And none of you move the rug ever
Pulled up
once.
the rug. So I explained that away, kind of like you explained away Signs, because we found out that the old lady was in on it. So in my head canon, because I was pissed when I found out that there was the trap door under there. I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind?
Mm-hmm.
But then they revealed the old lady was part of it. And I just, to myself, thought, okay, she just convinced people. Like, I've looked at everything up and down. Nope, what are you doing over there? That rug's fine. Nothing's under there. That's just where I went with it. Like, hey, no, I just checked.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do some super chats really quick. Kaboom. Dream in Japanese for $5. Thank you, Dream. Just showed Signs to my wife with her boyfriend for the first time. They loved it. Hell yeah. My family all loves Signs as well. What's the hate?
Signs to my wife's boyfriend. To my wife, her boyfriend for the first time.
Just showed Signs to my wife. I guess I read that and it made sense in my head, but now that I play it back, it doesn't. Just showed Signs to my wife. I think there is a comma there, maybe. Her boyfriend. Nope, that doesn't make sense either. Okay, well, I'm glad that your wife's boyfriend liked the movie.
Interesting activity for an open marriage.
Kind of a trouble situation maybe going on over there. Michael for $1.99. Shoulder, maybe should. M. Night return to making R-rated films.
I don't think the rating really matters.
I think it's shoulder M. Night. I'm going to go with that. Should M. Night return to making R-rated films? I think he should return to maybe making a good script.
Yeah, I don't think the rating matters. I mean, most of his films have been PG-13, even the best ones. And so adding gore or a couple of fucks isn't going to make Trap better.
Certainly,
although it was a little odd, we're following a serial killer that brutalizes people, and even the one kill that we get is just like PG as shit.
Yeah, the fryer going up in the face.
Well, the eyes. He's like,
oh yeah.
And I was like, oh, they're gonna get oh no, never mind. Cut
and
away.
He pushed a woman down the stairs at one point. I do love, again, they took the time to show security cameras going everywhere, and they never once thought, hey, the lady that just had like acid in her face, why don't we look at the camera? Why don't we see how that happened?
Mm-hmm.
Someone, what's funny about this, Cody, is every time I did like one of these bitch reviews on this movie, there'd always be a bunch of there'd be like 10 more comments that I didn't even think about. Like that scene where he has the fryer mishap. He pulls an apron off of a hook. That's for some reason they just have an extra. Yeah. And there's a wallet in there with an ID. Whose was that?
Yep.
So silly.
I'm even more nitpicky than that. So like I'm a cooking nerd, and when he turned the fryer up, I was like, oil doesn't boil at 450 degrees. Like even that, I was like, wait a minute.
Speaking of grilling, I did some seasoning today. I think you'd appreciate that. And I don't mean seasoning like the spices. I mean seasoning the grill. The whole project of like scrubbing it down and putting the oil on and heating it up. What a project. It's like an all afternoon fucking thing. Lindsay was like, what are you doing? Oh, the same thing I've been doing for 4 hours, seasoning these cast iron skillets and my grill outside. It's an all day affair.
Yes, it is.
All right. We have Gavin Moon for $4.99. So who do you think has the best filmography? M. Night, Zack Snyder, or Michael Bay? Oh my God, that's tough. Whew. Zack
Zack
Snyder.
Snyder has less misses than the other two, but he also has made significantly less movies.
I also think Zack Snyder, out of the three, is the only one that's filmmaking is getting worse over time. He's like degrading. Rebel Moon is ugly as shit. What is with his bloom lighting he puts on everything now? Did you see Army of the Dead?
I did.
It's a hideous movie.
I wasn't huge on Army of the Dead, and I can't bring myself to watch the 6-hour cut of Rebel Moon.
They're awful. And Army of the Dead has this hideous, soft focus crap he does on everything now. I think Zack Snyder might have the worst filmography of the three. Michael Bay, does he do a lot anymore? He's kind of retired as far as I know. What does he come out with?
This one's tough because I think I have more M. Night films in my favorites than any of the other three, but also M. Night has made more bad, unwatchable movies than the other two for me.
Yeah.
Like Zack Snyder's had some big misses, but I love
Sucker
Dawn of
Punch
the
is
Dead,
cool.
300. I like Batman v Superman and his Justice League and a few others, but it's really just his last couple and Sucker Punch that I haven't really enjoyed. Michael Bay, there's not any of his movies that I would put like in my top 100.
No,
I love The Rock. I love Bad Boys 2.
Transformers 1 solid, but then they made 14 more of those.
Armageddon solid.
I recently I tried rewatching Armageddon. That movie is not holding up well at all. But the first time it was great. The Island was decent. The first half is really good.
Yeah. That's a movie that should have been a thriller and not an action movie.
It should, you're premise. Right. 100%.
Actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, even though he's got heavier misses, I'll give it to M. Night because Unbreakable Signs and Sixth Sense would probably all be in my top favorite movies, and Split and Glass wouldn't be super far away from it, where my favorite Zack Snyder movies and my favorite Michael Bay movies would be a little further down the list.
I don't know if I disagree with you. Snyder is always going to have my heart because of 300. Yeah, I adore that film. But ever since it has, I mean, and I do like Dawn of the Dead a lot. But 300 is like a top 100 for me, I would say. But yeah, I might agree with you with M. Night because I love Signs. Unbreakable was so different at the time. Yeah, we're gonna go with M. Night. It's an M. Night stream, so let's celebrate it a little bit. All right. Primal Plasma for $5. Thank you, Primal. M. Night Shyamalan movies are like bad, overly long Twilight Zone episodes that don't have Rod Serling telling you the twist in the beginning. It's not wrong for the most part. It's not wrong. Movies Are Life for $5. Thank you. Bliss is the mom. Twist that the Bliss is the Miss Bliss. I got you. Miss Bliss is the mom. Twist that the audience has to discover by asking questions about the plot, tasers instead of guns, letting them touch the bike, etc. Okay, here's the deal. You have to have some semblance of story behind that. You can't just make it up in your head canon. If the director is not going to give us an inkling that she's the mom throughout the film, then I'm not going to buy it. There was no real big reveal or even like small lead to make me believe that she was the mom of the killer. Yeah, and also, he fucking sees a different old lady when the visions show up. When he just see his mom, if that was his mom, what? Like he would be seeing Miss Bliss if she was the mom. This doesn't make any sense. Okay, I appreciate you trying to clean up this trash, though. Awesome Cool Guy for $5. Thank you, Awesome Cool Guy. When the employee not only tells Josh the plan, was so good, invites him into the employees only section and gave him the safe word, gave me multiple migraines. Yeah, that was great. Wow, you let someone else have the last t-shirt? Man, there's not a lot of good guys like you left. Here, I'm going to tell you everything going on. I'm going to also give you a guided tour of the back lot of the facility. It's ridiculous.
Followed up,
but also, I'm not going to realize that you stole my security clearance throughout the rest of the movie. That's never going to come up.
Followed up by him walking through a whole room full of cops talking about the profiles they're looking for, and they ignore him because he's got a lanyard. This guy looks official.
Yeah, and then later the SWAT team upstairs is a lot more intense, and they ask for the card that you're supposed to get. Why didn't the SWAT team ask? But also in that scene up top, also hilarious. they're like, "Oh, the FBI lady, glad you asked about her. Let us tell you everything we know, stranger, that we haven't met for more than 5 seconds." I said this joke on your Twitter X stupid website, but everybody in this movie reminded me of Chris Farley from Wayne's World as the security guard. I don't know where Wayne and Garth are outside trying to get to Mr. Big, and Chris Farley's like, "Oh, glad you asked. He goes this way down the road." And Wayne then later goes, "Wow, that was a lot of information for a security guard to have."
Yeah.
That was this whole movie. Everybody in here.
Yep.
All right, thank you, awesome, cool guy. I don't need to waste any more of Cody's time or my own. I got dinner to cook. I'm sure you do as well. Make sure you get those sandbags out for the final leg of, I guess, the hurricane, right? It's supposed to hit one more time tonight. Or is it done?
Know. Is it? I think we're done. I think we're through it, but
I thought she was going to do kind of like a last minute fit, but nothing major, just a little bit more showers. Yeah, exactly. Cody, what's coming up on the channel?
Well, just a couple hours ago, I dropped a tier list where almost a year ago at this point, I did a horror icon tier list where I ranked all the big horror characters based off of my favorites. I took that same list, added a few, and I'm ranking them based off of which ones I could actually survive in their movie. So
that's
kind of a fun
idea.
little idea.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I dropped that one today. We've got Cuckoo, which I just filmed my review for before we went live. I saw the TV glow, wasn't gonna review it, but then saw the back and forth debate on Twitter, and I was like, okay, this actually might be an interesting one to discuss. So I'm gonna film a review for that.
That movie looked horrible.
I don't think you would like it. I'm not gonna say it's horrible. It's well made, but it's one of those movies that's very metaphorical, and for me, it's like overtly obvious what the metaphor and what the overall message is within 20 minutes, but they take 90 minutes to tell it.
Of course.
And then we got Borderlands coming out on Friday, so I'm gonna go subject myself to that on tomorrow at some point and review that. Hopefully it surprises me, but this feels like they're hiding it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a budget Guardians of the Galaxy. It's odd that that's an Eli Roth film. Does not look like an Eli Roth film.
Yes.
I don't know. I played the game a little bit. It's fun. I mean, it kind of matches the game enough. I don't know. It could be the Dungeons and Dragons of 2024. I really like that movie from a couple years back. It bombed. I have a feeling this is going to bomb as well.
Oh, it's for certain going to bomb because the projections are already like less than 10 million and it costs like close to 80 to. I don't have any faith that it's going to succeed, whether it's good or not, but we'll see.
We'll be seeing 4 more Thanksgiving movies to make up for this bomb. That's my prediction. I'm okay with that. I like Thanksgiving quite a bit. So, All right. Well, mine's similar. I'm going to both of those movies tomorrow, hopefully early-ish, and then I plan on getting the reviews out Friday.
I loved Cuckoo, so prepare to hate it.
It looks really good, actually. The one trailer I saw, I thought looked really cool. Again, I don't hate all of those types of movies. Elevated horror. I love Hereditary. I really like Midsommar. So it follows. I love. I don't know if that's whatever. Anyway, I like a lot of movies. Okay, so I got those coming up, and I don't know, maybe a live stream next Tuesday night. I don't know what it'll be on, but that's typically when I do these. This was just kind of a special one since Cody and I both loved M. Night's new film Trap so much. I wanted to have a conversation. All right, I think that's it. Cody, always fun talking to you. I'll see you on the internet.
Yes, sir.
Later, man.
See you.